Hi, this is Bill Hitchcock. This is a continuation of Chapter 8, our work with statistics. So last time what we did is some real simple descriptive statistics like the sum, the average, the min, and the max. So now we're going to add in a few more functions that Excel has. One of them is called the small function, and there's a large function. Now with these, what I want to do is I want to just type in the number 1 next to these, and I'll show you why in just a minute. When we type in our function, it's equal small and a left parenthesis. My array is whatever it is that you want to do the statistic on. So in this case, I'm going to come up here to the salaries, hold my shift key, cursor up a couple of times, hit the end key, E-N-D, then up arrow all the way up to the word salary, and then I'll type in a comma. The K attribute refers to which one of the smallest do you want. Do you want the first smallest, the second smallest, the third smallest, and so on? So I'm going to choose where I typed in the number 1, hit enter, and if you look at this number, and if I use my format painter here, and I'm just going to format it because small and large are the same as all the rest of these, the first smallest is the same as the min. So it's just another way of getting the minimum function. Now I'm going to type in equals large and a parenthesis. My array is the same as what I had before, so I'm just cursoring up to it. Hold the shift key, up arrow, hit the end and up, all the way up to salary. Type in a comma. K in this case is the first largest, if you will, and that's also equal to the max. So if I would change this number, there's the second smallest, here's the second largest. And we can, just do some different little tricks like that to see, what's the fifth smallest, the fifth largest, and kind of crank down a little bit on the range of cells, or I should say salaries that we have in that range. So what I'm going to do is, let's try using a COUNTIF function here. So let me get rid of my job satisfactions. That might be a little bit confusing there, so I'll delete that. But what I want to do is, let's put in the word count, and then we'll have the percent next to it. So I'm going to do equals COUNTIF, a parenthesis. My range is all of my salaries. And I'm going to hit shift end up, but this time I don't really want to include the word salary. And the reason is because it's going to count that salary as a 0 because it perceives a number as being in there. So I want to take that out of there. Type in a comma. The criteria for this, you can just reference a particular cell, or what we can do is we can put in operators. Less than, equal to, greater than, and so on. And a good way of doing it is if you put those operators in quotation marks, and I want to say any of these salaries that's going to be less than or equal to, and then I put an ampersand in there because I'm going to join in the value, and the value is my small number. So it tells me that there's 5 of those salaries that are less than or equal to the small one that we have. And so if I change this, you can just verify, yeah, sure enough, there's 3 of them. That sounds good. And if we wanted to, we could do our percents. We could divide this by the total number of records that we have. And I can format that. So 6% of our records, 3 of them, 3 out of 50, tells us that it's going to be less than or equal to that. Right, so little things like that you could do. All right, let's check this and make sure that those numbers are really right. So I'm going to come up into salary. I'm going to click on either home, and way off to the right is sort. Or what I can do is I can go to data and sort. And I want to sort this by salary. And let's leave it smallest to largest, that'll be fine. So there's my smallest. That was 30,176. So if I hit end and down and go all the way down to the bottom, The minimum, 30,176. Our third smallest, 30,982. If I hit Control Home, there's the third smallest. There they are, and we've got those numbers highlighted. All right, the other thing that I can do with this is now I've essentially got these items ranked. All right, so for instance, if I wanted to sort this the other way, I'm going to sort this in descending order. So in this case, I can just click on Z to A. So there's my biggest number. That's our number one salary, if you want it the highest to be number one. So I could type in 1, 2, 3, highlight those cells, kind of like what we did with our sequence number. I'm going to format this with a comma format, get rid of the decimal places, and then just click on my fill handle and copy that series all the way down. My smallest item is number 50. But now if we sort this in any way other than by the salary rank, those ranking numbers will kind of stay fixed, if you will. So let's try going up to data. Let's sort this by sequence number, back in the original order. And our last record just so happened to be the highest one. So there's number 1, but you can see all these salary ranks, they've kind of changed. And this is the original order of my records. So my first record happened to have a salary rank of number 27. That's not a bad way of doing the ranking, but there's actually a better way, because the problem with this is if we would change this number, say for instance this sales rep gets paid $100,000. I now know that they're the top paid person, so their salary rank should be number 1. And in fact, there's our maximum. So to get that to work, what you want to do is we're going to use, rather than having to resort again, I'm going to use the rank function. And there's two versions of it. There's RANK.AVG and RANK.EQ. So we're going to type in RANK.EQ. My number is the salary. Type in a comma. The reference is my array, or my list of records. So I'm going to hit Shift, and down to select all of that range. And now I'm going to copy this formula down. So what I need to do is I need to lock those rows into place. So I'm going to hit Function F4 a couple of times. And then the last thing that I could do is I could type in another comma, and this gives me either ascending or descending order. The default is descending. If you want, go ahead, type it in. Type in a 0, hit enter, and now my salary rank is number 1. Let's copy that down for all the rest of these. And our former number 1 is now number 2. So we've got that. All right, well, I don't remember what my original data was, so I've got to undo all this. I suppose I should have written it down or done something. But let's undo this. Let's undo this. Let's keep undoing. Oops, I went undo one too far. There we go. I'm back to what we had with the 45,855. So let's redo our rank function now. Equals rank.EQ, parenthesis. The number is the salary. Type in a comma. The reference is all of these cells, so I'm hitting Shift and down. Function F4. I can hit F4 again because I just need the rows. And the last part, the order, I'm just going to leave it optional because I want it to be in descending order. Hit enter. And I've got a number 27 there. We're going to copy that formula. Control C, Shift and down to all of those cells. And if we change this number now to 100,000, it's back to number 1. If I undo that, we're at 27. So that worked. All right, that's the salary rank, and in fact, I'm going to change this field name here and put in EQ so I remember what that one is. All right, now what I'll do is I'm going to insert a new column. I want to take that salary rank. I'm going to copy all that, paste it over here. Don't worry that I got a bunch of values. We'll fix that up in a minute. And let's try out the salary rank for the average function. If I can click up in there, there we go. So we'll do equals rank.AVG. And my number is the same as what we did for the EQ. So it's the salary. The reference is all these cells, function F4. I don't need the 0 because, that's the default value. So I'm getting number 27. Let's copy this down. Shift, sorry, I hit Control C. Hold my Shift key, end and down arrow, hit Enter. And it looks like most of these numbers all look about the same. And if some of those would have been resulted in kind of a tie, if you will. So let's find out. Let's try sorting this in ascending order by rank. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It looks as though I don't have any ties. But if there would have been, the average would have averaged those two numbers together, whereas RANK.EQ just kind of skips ahead. All right, so give it a try on some of your statistics. Find out what happens when you do the difference between salary rank and salary RANK.EQ versus average. Average will do what we just said. It'll take any ties and kind of average those together and say it's 3.5. Versus RANK.EQ will give you 1, 2, and then it'll jump to number 4 or something for all of those records. All right, let's see. We've got that in there. Couple other things that I want to do here. Let's put in the range. And the range is just going to be max minus min. Just to kind of give you an idea about how dispersed is our data. So my data is, here's the max, and I want to subtract off the minimum. There's a difference of almost $67,000 between our our lowest paid employee and the highest paid employee. And another way of kind of looking at that is we could take the maximum and divide it by the minimum. And I'm just going to format this cell with a comma format, maybe get rid of one decimal place. And our highest paid employee earns 3.2 times what the lowest paid employee was. So again, just kind of a rough dispersion figure that we could have. All right, other things that we can do is we can get find out what the top and the bottom salaries would be if we looked at the top 10%, and I'm just going to reference that cell and the bottom 10%. So for the top 10%, I want to take the maximum and subtract off 10% of my range. So it equals the max minus parenthesis, just to help kind of group this together, 10% times the range. Hit enter. So that's at 90,461. For the bottom, we'll do the same kind of thing, except this time we're going to take the minimum plus parenthesis 10% times my range, and I get 36,874. Right, so here's where I want to do this count function. I want to find out for the top how many of the salaries. Count if these salaries, my range, is, quote, I want to do greater than or equal to ampersand 10% and above, I guess, the highest 10% of our employees. So there's 2 employees that meet that criteria. For the bottom, we'll do equals COUNTIF. My range is salaries, and I want to include that, and I want to do those that are less than or equal to ampersand that low number, 36,874. And I find out that there's 15 records there. So now what I can do with these is I'm going to take 2, divide that by the total number of records that we have, and I'll do function F4, and let's format this with a % sign. If I can get up there, come on, there we go. 4% of my employees, if you will, versus 30% are in the bottom 10% of all wages. All right, let's see if that's right. All right, let's come in here. We've got our data that's sorted by rank. So there's my top 2 employees. And if I scroll all the way down to the bottom, let's see, we had 36,874. So let's highlight these employees that are less than 36,874. So there's 1, hold my shift key, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 employees are under that value there. All right, so finally, here's one more way to help you kind of quickly identify some of those cells. What we'll do is we'll do some conditional formatting. So let's click on Home. Let's click on Conditional Format. Set up a new rule. I want to format only those cells that contain anything that is, in this case, greater than or equal to this number here, this 10% of the maximum, if you will. So I've got that. I want to choose a format, and let's give them kind of a green color. I'm going to do a fairly dark green, just so it sticks out a little bit better. We'll hit OK. Hit OK. And hopefully you can still read the number behind there, 90,460.7. And I suppose, like anything, let's get rid of the decimal points. We don't need those. All right, now that I've got that little bit of conditional formatting, I've got to add a little bit more. So I'm going to go back to conditional format. Oops, hang on. There we go. This time I want to manage the rules because I want to keep that one that I already have. I'm going to add in a new rule. I want to format only cells that contain those that are, in this case, less than or equal to the 10% from the bottom. And if that's true, we'll format them and give them kind of a reddish color, purplish red, whatever, pink, I guess, that works, as a warning. And, oh, did it take it? There's that. There we go, that looks better. Hit OK. So I've got both these rules working. You can hit apply. You can hit OK. And now the trick is to use your format painter and format paint those cells that you want to highlight. So in this case, my bottom one now shows up as being pink, right? Because that matches the criteria. I'm going to use my format painter, and I'm going to format paint all of these salaries all the way up here to the top. Right up to there. And there's my two top ones. Coming down to the bottom. A little bit farther. Come on, come on, come on. There they are. There's the ones that fell into that low category. My 15 records. So, you know, a lot of work, whatever else. But, you know, here's what's kind of nice about by referencing different cells on doing this. If I want to change this to 20%, now we can find out, you know, some of these different categories. You know, here we've got the 20% from the top, the 20% from the bottom. At the top, I still only have 5 records that are, you know, only 10% of my employees are paid there versus 40% are all underneath that bottom 20%. So it gives you an idea about, you know, if your data is kind of skewed, if you will, and we'll do some of those measures in just a bit. And the other thing that's kind of nice about this is if we sort this data, any particular, you know, if we sort back in the original order, so let's see, let's go to sort and filter. Let's sort this by the sequence. That conditional formatting still works, so we can kind of highlight which employee is who, as far as, you know, where their salary is. And you could have done this with the job satisfaction or any other of those numbers that you want to. So I hope that gives you a couple ideas. The last thing that we have to wrap up with is some quartiles, the variance, standard deviation, kurtosis, and skewness. So we'll try some of that and experiment just a bit more.